If a car is going to demand some sort of price premium, then it's got to do something that no other car does, and it's got to elicit an emotional response that no other vehicle in its class can do. And that's the swing and the miss for me here with the Escape, is that it does cost more than a lot of its counterparts, but yet I don't see why. I had a really hard time coming to shoot this review to try and figure out why I didn't like this car and why I felt this need to not give it a glowing review. I don't enjoy coming and shooting these videos and having to be negative about a car. I think some people in the comments and on the internet think that auto reviewers in general, or really any product reviewers, that they like dumping on a product and they like getting something and then just getting to speak negatively about it. And maybe there are people out there like that, but I like to think the vast majority, all my colleagues whom I talk with, we would love to just come out and wax poetic about everything we drive and everything about it, say it's a great buy, go out, get yourself one. But unfortunately it's just not the case, and there are external influences. I mean, Ford's very kind to be giving me this product, and I spent a whole week with it. And I'm also a long-time Ford owner. I've owned an Escape hybrid. My very first car was a Ford. I currently own a Ford now, and we've recently I've owned more Fords than any other brand. So I definitely have an affinity for them, and I want to like their products. This ST line Elite Escape, it's too expensive. It just is too expensive. But I knew that there had to be more than that. I knew that I couldn't just come here and tell you, yeah, it costs too much, because at the end of the day, there are cars that cost a lot more than this Escape, and we tell you all the time, go out, buy one. It's a good idea. We think it's worth the money, but it's not the case for this car, and so I had to come up with a little bit more. And what I decided on is there's nothing about this car that makes me feel like there's nothing about the car that makes me go, yeah, it's expensive, but it's worth it. And so I tried to think of some of the cars that do make me feel that way. One of them was another Ford product. It was the Bronco Sport Heritage. That one was pricey and wasn't offering a lot of features that you could get at that price point, but it looked so cool and it was so special and unique to that market, and it was very capable off-road that I was like, yeah, don't worry about the fuel economy, don't worry about the cost. If you like the car, go get it, go buy it, because there's not many things like that. The problem with the Escape is that there are a lot of other cars in this segment that do the exact same thing as this car. Yeah, it looks good, but there's a lot of cars that look good. The CR-V looks good, the Mazda CX-5 looks good. I mean, even the new Equinox looks good. This has a hybrid powertrain, but so does the RAV4, and so does the Tucson, and so does the Sportage? Kia Sportage? So does the Mitsubishi Outlander. Even though it's the bigger car, you can still get a plug-in hybrid with that. So that isn't it. This offers all-wheel drive, but so do a whole bunch of the other cars in this segment. So it came down to, why would you pay $44,000 for this car as opposed to $41,000 for a hybrid, fully loaded RAV4, $40,000 for a fully loaded CR-V, or what was it, like $41,000 for a turbo Mazda CX-5 with everything, ventilated seats and a sunroof? So I'm going to go through, I'm going to show you some of the bits about the Escape, kind of standard review style, but this one isn't it. It just isn't. It's too expensive. Starting off at the front, I do like the looks. I think this facelift for 2023 is sharp. I think it's a slick looking car, and I do appreciate how Ford has this dual setup for the compact crossover class now, where you can get the Bronco Sport if you want something more rugged and capable and off-road oriented, or you get the Escape if you just want something a little bit more city designed. You've of course got a power open tailgate, which a lot of people appreciate in this class. I do appreciate this low load surface, and it's also very flat and smooth. So if you were pulling something large out of here, car seat or stroller or bag of dog food or something, it's very easy to get it in and out. And you do get a compact spare, which is not something you get in a lot of vehicles. A little tiny bit of storage on the sides, not really anything super useful. Big annoyance for me though no way to fold down the seats from back here. So if you're loading something in and you go, oh gosh, I need to fold the seat, you can't even reach up and fold it down right here. You have to go around into the back row and then flip this lever. And then that happens, because these don't auto fold or anything. It kind of looks like they should, right? I don't know why they don't flip back. So I'm gonna have to now go up here and move this forward. There we go. Now this can come down and you got a mostly flat load surface. But again, in a category where there are vehicles with quick releases right here on the sides, or at least the ability to reach forward right there and pop down the seat, why is that something that we don't have here in the Escape? Then you got to look at the fact that this door doesn't open super wide, so if you're trying to get a rear facing car seat in here, this isn't a whole ton of clearance. Lifting this up is difficult to do with one arm. You can see how much I'm strained to do it. If I were a shorter person or not as strong, that would be very, very difficult to do. You got pretty fancy seat quilting, but what I'd rather have is a little bit of extra room. Believe it or not, I actually had more room in the back of the Chevy Trax last week than I do in this Escape. That's not to say I'm uncomfortable. I've got adjustable seats, I can lean back. There's definitely enough room. It's just kind of surprising that in a class up from the Trax, there's less room in here. Fortunately, you do have rear vents. You've got rear power points. Those are both important. But we flip down the center armrest. Hard plastic cup holders at $44,000. Also looking up, this one is lacking a sunroof. Sunroof is an extra something like $1,600. Standalone option. Not getting that here. Coming into the front. Again, very attractive interior. Something has been weird with the seating though. I noticed it the very first time I got into the car. There's something on my butt, like pushing up into my butt, like a weird ball type feeling. I haven't been outwardly uncomfortable in the seats, but you gotta realize we sit in a different car every week for many, many hours and haven't been particularly comfortable in this one. Climate controls, let's talk about them real quick. No physical controls outside of a defroster. So everything is in the screen, and as I'll drop right here, that can be an issue. People often ask why we don't like climate controls in the screen. Well, this is exactly why. I'm driving the Escape right now, and they're not working. Nothing, I don't know if it's the whole screen. You look at that, the whole screen's frozen. Can't do anything. I can listen to stuff.
If fame become.
But here I am, it's 79 degrees out, sunny, and I'm trying to get my air conditioning on. Nothing happening. So that is exactly why climate control shouldn't be in the screen. And it's not that other brands aren't also moving to this cheaper setup of only having your climate controls on the screen, but if you're gonna do that, you have to have a really, really responsive, snappy, quick screen. And it would still be nice to have some physical controls. There's never been a time where I've gotten in a car that's touchscreen only and I've gone, oh yeah, this is a better way to do it. It's clearly a cost-saving measure. If you do want to see more on the Sync 4 screen in here, we've got a dedicated review breakdown for it. It's good, it's fine, and I actually do appreciate the proximity to the driver. It's easy to reach to, but it's not my favorite touchscreen infotainment in this class. And then you've got this head-up display in front of me. When was the last time you saw a brand new vehicle, something that was refreshed, and came out with this flip out glass screen for a head-up display? It doesn't look good. It doesn't inspire confidence the way it flips up and down, and I haven't found it particularly useful. There's no problem. I drove with it off for a while, and I had no problem just looking down a little bit further to get my speed information there and maybe some cruise control information. So I've never liked them in the Mazdas where they have that head-up display, and I don't like it here. Something I do really appreciate, a nice wireless device charging pad that you slap your phone right down in there, and because we do have wireless CarPlay and wireless Android Auto support, a wireless device charger is very important because your phone's going to die very quickly if you're doing that mirroring wirelessly and not charging it back up. We've also got a USB-A and a USB-C port in there if you prefer to run a cable. I'm also a big fan of the rotary shifter. Super easy to get it into gear, and even though, yes, buttons are nice and a big shifter is nice, what the rotary does is it's the most space efficient way to do a shifter. Now you don't have to take up as much space in the center console area in order to have a shifter. This is a hybrid powertrain, and I will admit, even though there are other hybrids out there in this class, they're not all hybrids. So the Escape is one of the choices you have, and it gets pretty good fuel economy. Just driving it around, let's see, over 200 miles, which includes our highway fuel economy test, we've averaged 34 mpg. On our highway fuel economy test last night, we got 37 mpg. So those are really good numbers, and those are a good example of why I would recommend getting a hybrid for a lot of people doing kind of mixed driving. If you've put a lot of miles on your car, get the hybrid. And some people are worried about longevity. It's often been shown that the hybrid powertrains last longer without needing major repairs than gasoline counterparts, because the simplicity of the hybrid system goes a long way. Just look at all the Priuses and Escape hybrids out there that have 200,000-300,000 miles on them, no problem. In fact, I owned an Escape hybrid with over 300,000 miles on it on its original battery, so I wouldn't be too worried about reliability. In fact, I think the hybrid powertrain will be more reliable than the 2-liter turbo powertrain that you can get in this Escape. The general driving experience is an example of a way this Escape is right up there with class leading. It is quiet in here. It really is pretty darn quiet. I noticed that as soon as I drove the car. The steering has a good feel. The throttle response, fairly natural. It is a smooth experience. One demerit I will say for this one is we've got a sport-tuned suspension. Why? Why does anyone want their hybrid compact crossover that they're using for daily driving to be tuned sporty? I want to feel as little of the road as possible in a car like this. I had a very similar complaint with the Lexus RX that we had, and that's even worse because that's a luxury vehicle. At least this is not luxury, and so I'm like, okay, well, I don't need a luxury ride. But if you've got things like quilted leather and cool cross-stitching and everything in here, why wouldn't you continue to chase that luxury feel rather than going sporty? I don't get that. I never get in this car and think, oh yeah, this ECVT and this hybrid powertrain with 190 horsepower really makes me want to drive sporty. Another pro that the Escape does have going for it is its B&O sound system. This upgraded sound system's got 10 speakers, and I'm actually shooting my final evaluation on it right after this video, but we did the members-only sound test last night, and overall I was pretty happy with it. It's got some weird factory tuning. Most cars I recommend just leaving on flat EQ because the audio engineers generally know best what sounds good, and I generally agree with them. This is not the case with this car. This one I had to dial things back. Where are we at here? I believe it was, oh, I got it. Can't adjust the sound settings apparently without sound being played. I brought the treble down 1 and the mid-range down 2, and that helped balance things out a little more. I think you could go even more dramatically. We'll figure that out today. But strong in this class. Not the best. I still think that lies on the Mazda CX-5 with its Bose system, but strong system. Listen to how nice and quiet this is at 50 miles per hour. Very little wind noise. Do have some squeaks and rattles. I have noticed that throughout the week. For me, if a car is going to demand some sort of price premium, then it's got to do something that no other car does, and it's got to elicit an emotional response that no other vehicle in its class can do. And that's the swing and the miss for me here with the Escape, is that it does cost more than a lot of its counterparts, but yet I don't see why. It's a solid base hit. It's a car that you could buy and have very little trouble with and be fine with. But when compared to the others in its class, I just can't recommend it. So if you have an Escape, especially an Escape hybrid like this, cool, awesome. I mean, great for you. I hope you were able to get one you like. I hope you do enjoy the product for a long time. Let me know if it was confusing to wade through all the different trims that they offer for this car, because not only do you have ST line, but this is an ST line Elite. There's also ST line Select and the normal ST line, and then there's Active, and then like a Platinum, I think, as well. So The trim structure is super wonky on the Escape, so it's very hard to suss through which one is best for you, and then you can put packages on there and everything. So I hope that if you own one, that you got one that you wanted, and maybe they're putting the MSRP up really high so that they can immediately mark it down, or dealers won't have to charge a markup or anything. That's kind of a conspiracy theory hunch that I had when I was talking to Alyssa about this car, because we were discussing, all right, why does it cost so much more than a lot of its competitors? Maybe Ford got so much bad press and bad flack for dealers giving markups and everything like that, that they said, okay, we'll put the MSRP really high, and then you as a dealer don't have to charge any markup, because your holdback, or whatever the difference is between the invoice pricing and the MSRP, the amount that the dealer makes on each sale, that will make that so large that you're kind of getting a markup without having to charge a markup. You know what I mean? So maybe then the dealer can be like, all right, we're not charging any markup, we're flat MSRP, but really they're getting the markup kind of baked into that MSRP. So that's kind of my hunch. And then if something isn't selling very well, they can put $1,000 on the hood, nice and easy, and the dealers can still make money and Ford can still make money. That's my hunch. We've seen that tactic done by Stellantis. We've definitely seen it done by GM. So I could see Ford employing that tactic as well. But on paper, it just makes it not look good. It makes me want to go out and get a CR-V or a RAV4 instead. The last critical thing I'll say, and I apologize for coming through negative on this video. I like I said at the beginning, I don't like doing that. But there are certain cars we get in, and it feels like the car was thought through and developed by people who drove the car, who lived with the car, who thought, all right, they drove it around for a while, maybe a prototype, and thought, this needs to be changed, this is good, let's tweak this, let's make this how I really like it. Side note, turning radius is really good in this car. A few examples recently were the Chevy Trax. Another one from Ford, the Maverick. I think you get in a Maverick and you're like, oh yeah, there's so many places to put things, and everything feels intuitive, and the truck feels right, the price is good. They skimped out on things that are okay to skimp out. Like, I don't care if there's cheap plastic materials way down below where you're not going to touch. But the things you use regularly feel nice, and it makes sense. The whole thing sort of fits together like a cohesive package, and it's all right there. It all feels good. Never got that vibe here with the Escape. And even though it does do things well, it doesn't come together as a whole compelling, cohesive package for me against its competitors. So thank you all so much for watching. If you feel like I'm wrong, let me know in the comments, and I'm happy to have that discussion. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, ST Line Select, and ST Line Elite on.